Not many historical horror films are usually created in the genre of horror. The ones that are talked about are usually a flop. This subgenre blends horror elements with historical settings, characters, or events. These movies take place in well-known historical periods or feature real historical figures, but they also add supernatural or terrifying elements like monsters, ghosts, or even vampires. Today I will be speaking about Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. With a budget of $69 million, the film made $116 million worldwide at the box office, and it was considered a flop. For a Hollywood film, especially with significant special effects and marketing costs, the return on investment was underwhelming. The critics gave the film a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the audience score was at 50%. However, despite its box office and critical response, the film developed a little bit of a cult following. I mean, when I first saw the movie, I really liked it. Looking back at the movie, I still enjoy it to this day. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter fits into the historical subgenre by combining the real-life figure of Abraham Lincoln with the fictional premise that he hunted vampires to protect the American nation. It reimagines the 16th president not just as a political leader, but as a secret badass that kills the undead, suggesting that vampires were a hidden force behind the conflict of the Civil War. This bending of American history with supernatural horror created an alternate reality where Lincoln's fight wasn't just against slavery but also against vampires, making the film a unique supernatural tale to tell. As someone who liked history as their favorite subject in school, I was actually excited to check this movie out. In another universe, I would have been a history teacher. I've only really seen two other historical horror films. They are The Witch and Dracula Untold, and I enjoyed them. But the one I'm covering today, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, that's the one that I like the most. In the film, Abraham Lincoln is driven to fight against vampires after witnessing the death of his mother at the hands of a vampire. He initially starts by learning how to hunt vampires while also studying to become a lawyer. At the beginning, Lincoln only wanted vengeance against the vampire that killed his mother. All his life, he only had one goal, and once his father passed, he tried to take revenge. What he didn't know is that he was messing with a vampire. He had always heard the stories, but he never came in contact with one until now. As you may have guessed, the vampire was more stronger than Lincoln. Thankfully, Henry Sturgis, who becomes Lincoln's mentor in vampire hunting, was around the corner to help him. Not to kill the vampire, but to help him this one time because he wasn't familiar how to fight these supernatural creatures like he did. Before we get to Henry's backstory, let's talk about the oath that Lincoln needed to take if he wanted to become a vampire hunter. Henry tells Abraham Lincoln that he must avoid forming close personal attachments. This included not marrying or having a family, as those close bonds could become weaknesses that vampires might have used against him in the future. Henry also tells him that a vampire hunter's life is filled with danger and loss, and personal relationships could distract or endanger both the hunter and those they care about. Despite this warning, Lincoln struggled with this commitment as he goes on to marry Todd and start a family, leading to tragic consequences as vampires later in the film started to target his loved ones, mostly his son named Willie. Willie becomes immediately ill and dies. It is revealed that he was actually killed from a vampire bite. It was an act of revenge and a warning to Lincoln. Henry, who was Lincoln's mentor, originally was born a human, but was turned into a vampire against his will by Adam, who is the main antagonist of the movie and leader of the vampire coven, after Adam killed Henry's wife. Henry was fueled with revenge, just like how Lincoln was when they killed his mother. The only major difference was that he was unable to kill Adam directly because the undead couldn't kill the undead as much as he wanted to. Since then, Henry dedicated his life to hunting vampires who abuse their power over humans. That is why he recruits and trains Lincoln to help him in his quest. He sends Lincoln to Springfield, Illinois to take down vampires who preyed on the local population. Under Henry's guidance, Lincoln learns the skills that he needs to fight the vampires off, using a silver axe as his primary weapon. The vampires in the film are portrayed as powerful creatures who feed on humans and who possess superhuman abilities such as strength, speed, and the power to regenerate themselves. They were able to move among humans even in broad daylight. They used sunglasses during the day because their eyes were the most vulnerable to sunlight. Not only were they able to walk among people, they also infiltrated many aspects of society. In the 19th century, slavery was still a major issue going on at the time, and so the vampires used slavery as a way to maintain a steady supply of human blood and power. This connection is used in the movie to create a deeper layer of conflict, intertwining the fight against vampires with Lincoln's historical fight against slavery. This realization that Lincoln uncovers from the vampire thread propels him to seek political power as a means to fight the systemic issues that vampires were supporting, such as slavery. In real life, Abraham Lincoln's political drive was deeply tied to his views on slavery. As a lawyer and politician, he believed slavery was wrong and should not be allowed to expand. Real-life Lincoln faced political and social threats in the form of a divided nation over slavery. Lincoln supported the North in their ideals to end slavery, meanwhile the South wanted it to remain. He took a stand against both slavery and the vampire threat on a national level. When Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, Southern states saw that he was against slavery. They saw this as a threat to their economic and social systems, leading them to leave the Union and form the Confederacy. This is when the Civil War officially started. In the movie, Lincoln's victory in the Civil War is depicted as both a battle against the Confederacy and a fight against the vampires who were supporting them. The vampires are working together with the Confederate forces, seeing slavery as a way to maintain their power and to feed off the enslaved population. At a dinner table with his wife, Lincoln got the idea to use silver against the Confederates as he realizes that it's the only effective way to fight the vampires who were helping the Confederate soldiers on the battlefield. He strategized to transport large supplies of silver to Union soldiers so they can turn the tide of the war. He had to make sure that the train made it to the Union at Gettysburg, safe and sound. So he decided that he needed to go on board the train so he can stop the vampires, especially Adam, from stopping the train. The scene on the train was a climactic moment part of the movie. It was basically the living versus the undead, good versus evil. Whoever won was going to take control of America. If you've seen the movie or know of the history of the Civil War, Lincoln won. There was no silver on board the train at all. Mary and the small group that she was with were headed to Gettysburg with the silver. This was the setup to get Adam on the train so Lincoln can finish him off with the silver pocket watch he had with him. He penetrated the silver watch, killing Adam and ending the influence over the Confederate forces. In real life, Lincoln's victory in the Civil War was the result of strategic leadership, military planning, and the brave efforts of the Union forces. After all the Confederate forces were defeated in the movie, Lincoln delivers his famous speech at Gettysburg. That is not what really happened in real life. Lincoln gave his speech at Gettysburg way before the Civil War ended in 1865. He gave the speech on November 19, 1863. The speech was only about 2 minutes long, but it powerfully redefined the Civil War's purpose, emphasizing equality, freedom, and national unity. The creators of this film wanted to make a fun but intense approach to American history by blending it with horror and action. They wanted to turn a historical figure like Abraham Lincoln into an unexpected action hero, carrying an axe and battling supernatural threats alongside his real-life fight against slavery. By using vampires as the evil forces influencing the Civil War, they tried to add an extra layer of darkness and intrigue to the narrative, giving audiences a reimagined take on Lincoln's life and on America's past.